Hello, and welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. It's Friday, couple days away from the big game on Sunday night in Los Angeles, playing the Los Angeles Chargers. I hope you guys all had a good week. I hope you have a lot of good plans this weekend. And then Sunday night, we're all going to sit down to watch the Bears hopefully win. Always, although they never play well on night games. I mean, excuse me, I haven't really done their looked at the record, but I know it can't be good on night games. So, what are you gonna do, right? So, um, I did want to start out the show talking about what we've been talking about the last couple weeks. Is our friend Chris Watts, who came in from England, big Bears fan, my buddy. From my podcast, which we haven't done the last 2 weeks. So if you've been looking for Bears Country podcast to download with Dan and Lynn, we haven't done it the last 2 weeks. We will be back next Wednesday. Circumstances didn't allow us to be able to do the show, but I'll shorten the story because people who are watching me regularly already know it. But basically, Chris started watching Dan's show podcasts. He's got several podcasts. Two others besides mine, I believe. And then Chris actually watched some of mine and became friends with Dan. And he'd never been to America. He never saw, obviously, a Bears game at Soldier Field. So Dan did a GoFundMe page, and we raised the money, and we brought Chris over. He unfortunately saw the first game, the Raiders game. It was a loss, but not a terrible game. And then, the Vikings game. All right, it's already starting. Pickled. The Vikings game, which the Bears should have really won. And then he did see the victory against the Raiders last Sunday. And Chris was on. I had made some inquiries, emails I sent out to TV shows. He was on Good Morning Chicago on Channel 32 as a Bears fan, and then him and Dan got to wave the big Bears flag before the players come out on the field. So they were on the field. I'm really jealous of that. They felt bad because they got all these cool things because I kind of alerted everybody to them. I wrote TV stations. I left a voicemail for George McCaskey because, we're like this. And I also wrote a letter to the Bears. So it did get some attention. So Chris and Dan were both on the field to do that before the Raiders game. And then Larry Meyer is a beat writer. He's worked for the Bears forever, and he just did a story on Chris Watts, and it came out yesterday. And if you go to the Bears webpage, if you look under news on early Thursday morning, there's a really cool article. It's nice to read something nice because everything that's going on right now. So read the article, and I did get my 10 seconds of fame in it. He did mention me. I'm so conceited, aren't I? Any little attention I can get. Hey, I'm 65. Give me a break. The last time I was in a newspaper was probably in high school when our softball team won the big championship. So that was the last time. But it's a really cool story. Or you could go to my Facebook page if you're connected with me, and the story's out there too. So it's definitely a read, and it was really great having Chris here. He just had so much fun. So good guy. He's a good mate, and I hope you made it home safe, Chris. We love you. All right, so let's get talking about what's coming up, okay? So the Bears and the Chargers have met only 14 times. It'll be the 14th time on Sunday, so 13 times, and the Bears lead 7-6, and the first time they met was in 2003. So it hasn't been a long rivalry. Let's just hope that the Bears go up 8-6. Okay. I'm going to do the comparisons of the team stats, and then I'll talk a little bit about Herbert, the Chargers quarterback. I can't really compare. We can't compare him to Bagent. Because he's only played one game. So, but we'll give you Herbert's stats because they're impressive. Okay, so as I always do, the Bears passing, they're averaging. Now remember, these are averages: 183 yards a game. That puts them 27th in the league. Chargers beating us hand down, could be a problem. They're averaging 252 yards passing, and that puts them 8th in the league. So the backfield is gonna have to be on their best behavior for the Bears on Sunday. We're killing them in the rush, no surprise. We're averaging about 141 yards a game. That puts us 5th in the league. They're averaging 118 yards. That puts them 16th in the league. So that's the only advantage the Bears have over the Chargers. The Bears have scored 22.6 points a game, average again. That puts them 13th in the league, scoring points. Chargers are scoring an average of 24 points a game. That puts them 11th. We're close. Points allowed by the defense, not terribly different. The Bears have been giving up an average of 26.9, and the reason that's high is because of the first 3 to 4 games. The last 2 games I'm going to talk about, the Bears have been very stingy giving up points. And so it's 26.9. That puts them 28th in the league. And the Chargers are giving up defensively 25.8. That puts them 25th in the league. So we're kind of average there. The big difference is our quarterbacks. Herbert is their quarterback. He's almost 1,600 yards passing already. He's got 1,592, 10 touchdowns. He's got 4 interceptions and been sacked 15 times. So he's a solid quarterback. Now, the Raiders the Chargers are 2-4. We're 2-5. They've had their bye. We have not. So our records are sort of the same. I mean, we played one more game and we lost it. So, but we essentially have the same records. But again, as I said when we played Minnesota a couple weeks ago, the Chargers are much better than their record. They just had some interceptions that hurt them, penalties, and just, I don't know, but they've been playing some tough teams. I do know that, much harder than the Bears. So they are a very good team. So we cannot take them lightly. Ignore their record. Their leading receiver is Keenan Allen, and he's got 574 yards with 4 touchdowns. Somebody we really have to watch. And Joshua Kelly is their running back. He is leading the running backs on the Chargers, 284 yards, and he's got 2 touchdowns scored. So they've got a very solid offense, and I'm going to compare the Bears. I'm going to give some of the Bears stats in a minute. So let me finish up with the Chargers. Their defense has 22 sacks. Yeah. So that's going to be a problem. They have 4 interceptions. They have 6 fumble recoveries. So it's very impressive, their fumble recoveries and their sacks. And remember, Khalil Mack. Remember him? He was a Bear a few years ago, and the Bears got rid of him. He is on this team. He's got 7 sacks currently, although, believe it or not, he got 6 of those sacks in one game. It was 2 games ago. Doesn't matter who it was, but they did get 6. So he's going to be pumped up playing the Bears, so we're going to have to really watch him. And the fact that they have 22 sacks, their defense line is good. So our offensive line has been getting better each week, but we're still not complete. Somebody's hurt. Darnell White is questionable for the game. I think he's going to play, and I'd like to see him in there. The offensive line did very well against the Raiders last week, but they're going to have to be that much better this week, okay? Because 22 sacks, these guys can sack, and we have got to protect our quarterback, okay? We'll talk about in a minute. So this is a good team, is my point, okay? So now the Bears, as I said, I'm not going to put Bagent's numbers because there's just no point, but our leading wide receiver has more yards than theirs. Moore's got 636 yards with 5 touchdowns. So he's got better numbers than Keenan Allen on the Chargers. So that's a good sign. Foreman, number 21, the running back who's played an excellent game last week. Just, I love this guy. I love this running back. He's big. He's tough. When he runs, guys are hanging on him, and he gets 3 to 4 more yards. It's awesome. He's got 2 touchdowns, which we know he scored rushing touchdowns last week, and he also has a 1 receiving touchdown. He's been averaging 4.7 yards a game, and he's only played 3 games. So the Bears on Sunday night, Getsy, you got to feed this guy the ball. I have Johnson, our number 2 running back, number 23, the rookie from Texas. He, I think, is going to play this week. He's out of concussion protocol, so he'll probably play. I'd like to see him get the ball too, but I really think Foreman deserves to be the number 1 running back on Sunday night. He certainly proved it last week, and I'd like to see the Bears give him more opportunities because he can wear down a defense. So feed him the ball, Getsy. The Bears have a total of 989 yards rushing this season, which is pretty damn good, and they've used 7 different running backs. So they do mix it up. Of course, we've had to because Herbert was out and still out. Johnson went out, and then our 3rd string went out, which I forget his name, but so they had to, but we've got running backs. That's not a problem on this team, but I really, again, like Foreman, and I want to see him get the ball a lot. Excuse me, our defense, we have 10 sacks. Now remember, San Diego has 22. We've got 6 interceptions, and they had 4. So we beat them there. We have 2 forced fumbles. And they had, what, did they have 8, did I say? 6 or 8? So they're much better at that than ours. We had actually forced 8 fumbles, but we only recovered 2 of them. So the defense has got to continue to play. Have they been? The defense, I was reading, this is an interesting stat. The defense has allowed only 68 yards rushing before contact, which puts them in 2nd in the league. So that's a good thing. And that's been because of the last few weeks. They've been playing very well, the D-line and the linebackers. And then the last 2 weeks, I've mentioned this before, the defense has only allowed 24 points. Of course, we played the Raiders, but we did play Minnesota. Now, that Minnesota game was 19-13, I know, but 7 of those points were on the offense. So the Bears have only been allowed 24 points the last 2 games. So that's a really good sign. The Bears' defense is for sure improving each week, and it has got to continue. So those are the stats. And you can pretty much throw that out come game time. So the Bears, to win this game, of course, they've got to have another perfect game. Error-free, smart, and they cannot have 9 penalties for 110 yards like they did against the Raiders. You do that, Bears are going to lose on Sunday night. I guarantee it. But they can't. They got away with those penalties because it was the Raiders and they were scoring points to Bears, but you can't do that. You know my rule, and I'm going to mention in a few minutes, 5 or less, okay? So they got to cut those penalties in half to give the team a chance. And, of course, the Bears have to finish the game like they did last week against the Raiders from beginning to end. They've got to play smart, heads-up, tough football. And the D-line, as I said, are going to be tested this week because, the offensive line is going to be tested this week because the Raiders have 22 sacks. And so that is going to put a huge pressure on our offensive line because these guys, and our offensive line has been improving. There's no doubt about it. Each week we've seen it. Last week was the 6th different offensive line we had out there because everyone's been hurt and we're plugging guys in. So, but they played a solid game, but they got to play better. than they did last week because it's the Chargers and they have 22 sacks. And if the defensive line does not have another solid game, Badgett's going to be in a lot of trouble. Badgett's, this offensive line, as I said last week, everybody on the team has to step up for this young kid. Everybody's got to play their best, smart, individual football game to allow this kid Bagent to succeed. He needs the whole team to do their job, particularly the all offensive line. They have got to have a great day. So they got to have a great day. So for the obvious, they've got to give Bagent a chance to throw that ball and scan the field. Remember, he's our undrafted D2 school rookie. So you got to give him, although he seems very poised and confident, which I love, he doesn't hang on to the ball, but we don't want that defense to force him to make mistakes, because if that starts happening, he turns the ball over or he gets sacked too much, Bears won't have a chance. So the O-line is so important because it's also important for the running backs. We got to get that running game. That running game against the Raiders last week was great. They mixed the run and the pass. Once you get that running game going and you start getting 4 to 5 yards a run and then some, that's just going to open up the passing game for Bagent and give him more time. Okay, so the O-line. Well, of course, the defense is going to be very important for the Bears, but I think right now, this week, the hardest is on the low O-line's shoulders. They really, really do. Because this is a good defense, a really good defense. So it's going to be a challenge. There is no doubt about it. And they've got to have a way better game. And Getsy has got to run the ball. It's so important to get that going early. Now, I know they're going to probably come out, give Bagent, I always say his name wrong, some short passes to get him comfortable, but you also got to get that running game going right off the bat. You wanna wear down their defense, okay, Getsy? So you know how I feel about you because you don't get it. And I'd like to see more throws from Bagent down the field. Now, last week they played more of a horizontal game, and we all know it. A lot of criticism I heard from the reporters and the on-air guys last week, but because they say, and I'm going to tell you a quote from some of them believe he doesn't have the arm to go, Bagent doesn't have the arm to go downfield. I'm not sure if that's the case yet. I've only seen him play one game in the regular season. So I believe, and I'm hoping it was the horizontal short game was because he was young and they didn't want to overwhelm this kid. So if they think he can handle it, I think they're going to put more down the field passes, and they got to, because I can tell you right now, those stupid Getsy behind the line screenplays aren't going to work with the Chargers. You've heard it here. So when he starts pulling that shit like he did last week, how the Raiders did not pick up on it got me, because Getsy is so obvious, and he can't do this week. He cannot put his young quarterback and his receivers in that position. You got to throw past the line of scrimmage in this game for sure, okay? Because that D is coming for this young guy. I also like to see the Bears get our tight end Clement more involved. He wasn't really involved in the game last week. He did have a catch, but and some blocking, but I want to see him more involved, as of course Moore and Mr. Mooney. Moore and Mr. Mooney had great games last week. I'd like to see these guys. There was a receiver or two last week that I was very impressed, that when Bagent was in trouble, they came back for their quarterback and were available for him to catch a ball. The receivers have got to pay attention to what's going on with him, because if he starts to get in trouble, you got to come back and give him an opportunity to release that ball, okay? So, the offense has really just got to have another game, important, really, really good game, but it's really offensively starts with the O-line. It really, really does. Now, our defensive line needs to continue to improve. The last 2 weeks, I saw major improvement. We were all really concerned about this, because there was only one guy returning on the defensive line from last year, and that's Julius Jones. Um, and he he's in there, and then these guys are all either free agents that we signed or we got them in the draft. Now they're starting to play better. You can see it each week, and they have got to continue. They have got to have their best game of this year Sunday night, seriously, because Herbert is a damn good quarterback, but you see he's made some mistakes this year. You want to get him in his face like you do any quarterback, fluster him, get some sacks, and force some turnovers. He's been sacked 15 times. So is it the line, or is he holding on to the ball too long? We don't know, but it looks like their offensive line can break down. So the Bears have got to get in his face, their face, and force errors. They have really been playing well, I think. And, of course, our backfield has been really good all year. But they're going to be tested by Herbert. And I do know that Brisker, who is having a phenomenal year, he's third in tackles on the team. Brisker, second year, he's really important to that backfield. And Eddie Jackson was limited. And now I'm doing this show before Friday's injuries came out. Eddie Jackson did limited practice. We need him in there too. But Brisker, number 9, really important. And when our rookie, number 29, Stevenson, has to have another good game back there too. But Brisker, my point was, Brisker was sick and has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday, so I'm really praying we can get this guy in there because he is good. So, the O-line and the D-line really have to have good games to win this game and to help their young quarterback. I said it last week, and the Bears did it, okay? Something I want to mention, something I heard Bagent say, and I thought it was really, really interesting, and it does speak to his knowledge of football. So he's being interviewed, and he mentioned that he has been playing a lot of football in his years. He played in junior high. He's been a starting quarterback since he was a junior in high school. He started all 4 years at quarterback in college. So he knows football. Because some of these guys that come out, like Fields, he went to Georgia first, and then he transferred to Ohio. And I think he only had 2 years starting, okay? Bagent has been playing, and what's most important that he played 4 years starter in college. I know it was D2, but he knows football, and I really, really like that, and I think that's why we're getting a lot of smart, confident play out of him, because he knows the game, and that's really important. D2 doesn't mean he wasn't getting it wasn't, and school had a good record, and he played really well. He set some records in college. So that's what I like about this kid. He's football smart. Now we just gotta hope that Bagent puts it on the field and he plays Sunday night. He puts out the noise, blocks out the noise, because he's not going to be at home. He's going to be in a hostile environment with a hostile defense. It's going to be a completely different game Sunday night in LA playing the Chargers. I mean it, people. It's a different game. So the Bears, again, every team player, I'm going to repeat it again, has to have their best game, play smart, intelligent football for this Bears team to win. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier in the show, that when the Bears had the horizontal passing game last week, short passes, some of the radio people and stuff were kind of criticizing the Bears, well, mostly Bagent. And this is what this is what Holmes and Bernstein, they're on the Score 670, said. They feel that, well, especially Bernstein, he said Badgett is nothing more than going to be a good backup quarterback. He's going to be a good backup quarterback, nothing more in this league. He says he says neither one of them think he has a strong arm, and that's why the Bears went horizontal and short. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. We haven't seen enough of the kid to prove it. So Holmes and Bernstein, I like their show, but I'm not sure. I think you're kind of judging this kid before we know. He played one game, okay? One game. And to say he'll be, only a backup quarterback and he does not have a strong arm, how the fuck do you know? What, have you seen something we haven't seen? So I'd like to see Badgett prove both Holmes and Bernstein wrong. Because if he does, I'm going to get up early, because that show's on early here, and I think I'm going to call in and shove it up there, you know what, and tell them they were wrong. So let's hope that Getsy was just playing it safe last week, and he is going to play it safe again this week. They're not going to put this kid out there to fail. I just know they're not going to do that. I don't think Coach Flus would allow that. Getsy, I'm not so sure, but I just don't think he would allow that, okay? So let's prove, come on, Badgett, let's prove all those naysayers that you're wrong, they're wrong, and that you do have an arm. And whether you're going to be a starter in this league for the Bears somewhere or a backup, it's still an amazing story. D2, undrafted. He's starting his second game in the NFL. It's pretty cool. And I got to tell you what, I was just watching the Tampa Bay Bills game last night, and Fitzpatrick, you know him, he's got that real long beard, and he basically was for most of his career, a backup quarterback, but a very good backup quarterback, and he had a long career doing it and made shit ton of money doing it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a backup, but we would love for Badgett to be a starter. I mean, only because I want to see this kid succeed, and nothing more if he's a starter on our team, right? And the one thing, you know how much I hate penalties? Tampa Bay was only down at one point, 7 points, and then it became 14 points. But in the second half, they killed themselves. Well, they had terrible field position for 3/4 of that game. They were always down at the other end zone, the Chargers' end zone, so they were always backed up. But penalties, it was always on the offense, and they'd get a good play, flag. So penalties are really, really bad. I saw it last night. So, okay, the injuries right now that I know of, as I said, our running back Johnson, I most likely will be in. Darnell Wright, our offensive lineman, he is hurting, but somehow I think he's going to play on Sunday. As I said, Brisker didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday. He's sick. Get yourself well, because we need you. He is having a hell of a year. And good news, we know Nate Davis. That's not good news. Nate Davis is out. He's still got a high ankle sprain. Those are the worst to get over. So I wouldn't count on him being in. But good news here, Braxton Jones came off of IR finally. And so hopefully we will see him in the next week or two. Because it would really be nice to get our line all back together as we had planned who was going to play going into the season, and see how they do. We need a healthy line. Okay. So I pretty much told you what we need. My threes. You watch my show, you know I do my threes every week. To win, or actually to have a chance to win or win the game, you got to win these three. At least 2 out of 3. Time of possession is so important, as you saw last week in the Bears game. It keeps your offense on the field, their defense on the field. It keeps your defense off the field and their offense off the field. And you want to wear their defense down. So important. We won that handily last week. Penalties. And if you know me, I hate penalties. It's such a destructive killer of drives. It just is. The Bears had 9 for 110 yards. How they won that game? Well, they won that game because they were outscoring the penalties, and it was the Raiders. But you can't win with 9, giving up 110 yards in penalties. So I say at penalties, 5 or less, you're going to have a really good chance to be in the game and win the game. And again, with this young Bajet behind center, penalties have got to go away, because we don't need him starting behind the sticks even farther, okay? They have to go positive yards. And then finally, turnovers. We've been winning that battle the last couple weeks, and we almost won that Minnesota game. We should have. And we did win last week because we had 3 turnovers. And it's like, turnovers are huge for the obvious reason. It pumps up your team, period, particularly your defense, and it gets their offense off the field and gets your offense back on the field, and everybody's in a good mood. And 9 out of 10 times, or let's say, 9 out of 10, you're going to have pretty decent field position if you get turnovers. So, very big. You got to win those threes. They did win 2 out of 3 last week. Obviously, they lost the penalty one, and I can't stand penalties. They suck. So, it's easy. Smart, air-free, no penalties, finish the game. We have a good chance. But this is a different team than the Raiders, everyone. So do not expect what we had last week. I just want this Bajet kid to have a decent game. I mean, we want to win, most definitely. Do I think the Bears can win? In reading what I'm reading, yeah, but I'm not sure they're going to. The Chargers are going to be home. They really need this win. They've got a good defense. Their offense has been the problem. They've been up and down. They can't necessarily get the running game going, and Herbert's had some interceptions and bad plays because he's got 1,592 passing yards, so he's a good quarterback. He's always been a good quarterback. Some people say a couple of those losses were on the coaches. You know what? That we've seen that before. We've had losses on our coaches, so it happens. So again, we just need everybody to really come and play, particularly O-line, D-line. Those two, very, very important. And I wish Bajet nothing but a good game. Good luck, young man. I mean, we would love to be 3-5 on Monday morning. And you know if we are, I'm going to sing the touchdown song again. You know it. Everybody loves that song. You know it. And I'll get better at it too. You know, since I've had COVID, I've been coughing still in my throat, but it's going to get better. So we know what's got to happen. Let's all rally around the Bears. Hopefully there'll be some Bears fans in the stands. Actually, my son and I, before the season started, talking about going to this game because it's only 3.5 hours from Vegas where we live. But it was a Sunday night game, and we would have had to turn around. My son has to work on Monday, so it wouldn't worked out. So like 4 weeks ago, he goes, "Aren't you glad we didn't buy tickets for that game?" And then I said to him last week, "No, I wish we had tickets for that game." But that's okay. I'll watch it at home. But yes, go Bears, right? So as always, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you coming back show after show. I'll be back on Monday, hopefully Victory Monday. And as always, I sign off. Be kind to one another. Stop hate. Times are really tough, especially what's going on out of the country. It's just so sad. And even in our country, there's so much shit going on. Massachusetts, God bless Lewistown. My heart goes out to you. It's just awful. I don't know when these mass shootings are going to stop, but it has to. It has to. It's just a scary time. You know, you're just afraid to go out sometimes. You don't know if it's going to be your last time. And so God bless those people. My heart is with you. Just love one another and be kind, please. Your show announcer or whatever I am. What am I? Yeah, I don't know. I'm Lynn, the pickled 65-year-old woman that looks like her dad on a woman's body. Again, just not fair. Something else, real quick. My buddy Dan, who I do the podcast with and who was in Illinois the last 2 weeks through Chris Watts, said he watched my show on Monday, and he said, you were cracking me up because you know how I was getting I got the names wrong, and then I sang the Bears verse. I started out with the wrong verse, and I was cracking up. He goes, you make me laugh so much. And you know what, guys? That's part of the idea of this show. I want to talk about my favorite thing, the Chicago Bears, and I want to bring us victories, and I give you my opinion, always my opinion. Hardly an expert, but I've been watching for 48 years, and I do watch a lot of football. But I also like to make people smile and laugh. If I can do that in my show, if I can make one or two people laugh, my mission is complete. So, laugh. Go Bears, bring us a victory, baby. I need it. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling, baby. Rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. Oh, bye-bye.